These are clips submitted by Alchemortis playtesters. They are one-shotting the toughest boss in the game. And the best part? This is the intended design. I'm building Alchemortis to give players the tools to create their own builds, and playtesters are already surprising me with synergies and combinations that I didn't anticipate. That's when the game really starts to shine. Alchemortis is a dark fantasy roguelite auto-battler where you use alchemy to create your own builds. You could take abilities from cards and put them onto other cards, arrange your cards optimally on your grid to maximize their potential, and combine everything with powerful artifacts to create truly ridiculous builds. My goal with Alchemortis is to achieve near endless replayability by handing build crafting tools to the player. Theory crafting, experimentation, and careful planning are core to the experience that I am trying to create for the player. You can play Alchemortis right now. There's a live playtest available on Steam, and anyone can request access. Head over to the Steam page and click the Request Access button, and while Alchemortis is downloading, wishlisting the game helps me a lot and directly supports development. You can also join the Discord to share your feedback, report bugs, and share your builds with other players. This playtest is only live for 1 week after this video goes up, so if you miss it, you'll have to wait until the next one. I wasn't surprised that playtesters broke my game. I was surprised by the ways in which they did it. In this clip, a playtester put together a build centered around a massively upgraded staff that scales its damage based on applied statuses like fire, and they proceeded to one-shot the toughest boss in the game. The player managed to acquire 4 ritual candle artifacts, each of which increases the tier of ritual cards by 1, pushing that staff all the way to tier 12 and causing its damage to scale completely out of control with the amount of fire being applied. This tester created a tapeworm that spreads poison across the entire enemy board 5 times. And this playtester took a completely different approach, maxing out their healing abilities and leveraging the Manticore Stinger artifact, which converts healing into poison, to absolutely decimate enemies. One interaction that genuinely surprised me was how the Manticore Stinger paired with the Rod of Asclepius. The Rod of Asclepius adds a healing ability to every card with the alchemical tag, and when that healing is converted into poison by the Manticore Stinger, loading your board with alchemical cards suddenly results in massive, runaway poison damage. I've even managed to surprise myself a few times by picking up an artifact and discovering an interaction I didn't anticipate. The Apprentice Wand, for example, has a 30% chance to randomly change any status that gets applied. That led to moments where I was suddenly applying bleed to myself when I was supposed to be healing, or poisoning enemies when I should have been applying fire. That moment of discovery, even as the developer, was genuinely unexpected, and it immediately got me thinking about how players could start to leverage interactions like that. Of course, the game isn't perfect, and there are balance issues to address, but this is largely the intended outcome. Players are using the systems available to them to create a wide variety of builds with extremely high damage output, and that's satisfying to see. I don't want Alchemortis to be trivially easy for most runs. I want players to think carefully about their synergies and how their cards work together. But like any good roguelite, there also needs to be the possibility of an absolutely insane run where everything clicks and you steamroll the game. Finding that balance is difficult. I don't want the game to live or die purely on RNG, where a run succeeds or fails based on luck alone. At the same time, if power is too easy to acquire, the decisions stop feeling meaningful. This has been a recurring point of feedback from playtesters. The first 2/3 of a run often feel tense and full of hard choices, but by the final third, that pressure tends to fall away. I could rein that in by reducing player power, but that risks making the early game too punishing, and simply inflating enemy health to compensate would just turn fights into bullet sponges, which isn't fun either. It's a challenging design problem, and one I'm confident will be resolved through further iteration. Getting to the point where players are genuinely having fun crafting their own builds wasn't easy. The core system in Alchemortis, Alchemy, has gone through several major refinements. Alchemy is the mechanic that lets you take abilities from one card and add them to others, but early on it was only meant to be a supplementary system, something players would use occasionally. As development went on though, it became clear that alchemy was the heart of the game, and Alchemortis would be far better served by leaning into it as the central pillar of the experience. Early on, alchemy was far too random. Players were hesitant to use it because the odds of getting a bad outcome often outweighed the odds of getting a good one. In other words, the risk-reward ratio was completely off. Instead of engaging with alchemy, players would rather make do with raw, unalchemized cards than take that risk. That was a major problem because alchemy was meant to be the game's core mechanic. To address this, I made alchemy much more predictable. Now when you use it, you're almost certainly going to get a better outcome than what you started with. But to prevent players from alchemizing freely without consequence, I added a system that forces more careful decision making. Alchemy Alchemy can now introduce negative abilities to cards. These are not always strictly negative, but more like constraints or annoyances that can be planned around or avoided entirely. For example, one negative ability causes a card to paralyze itself, but only if it's placed on the edge of the board. With a bit of rearrangement, that drawback can be completely negated. I've also added alchemical reagents, which are special cards that can be used during alchemy to control the outcome. With reagents, players can add abilities to cards, preserve specific types of abilities, improve card stats, and even guarantee a legendary result. Allowing players to deliberately chase a build, rather than just hope for one, is a core part of what makes roguelites satisfying, and the reagent system is designed to support that. On top of that, I've started introducing unexpected alchemy outcomes as well, like a random chance to acquire legendary cards or unlock surprise cards that can only be obtained through alchemy. Let me just do this. Oh, an aberration. That's the first time I've gotten an aberration. As I've continued developing Alchemortis and learning more about game design, one thing has become very clear to me. It's critical to identify a single core mechanic and fully lean into it. In Alchemortis, that mechanic is alchemy, and everything in the game is built to revolve around it. Because of that, there are even more alchemy changes planned going forward. The goal is to make alchemy fun and surprising, but most importantly to give players as many different ways as possible to approach and experiment with their builds. Thanks to all of you playtesters, I'm getting close to the point where alchemy is really solid and genuinely fun to use. There's still a lot of work to do on Alchemortis though. As development continues, I'm planning to pack the game with a huge amount of content, hundreds of player cards, dozens of encounters, multiple enemy bosses, and many more artifacts. But beyond content additions, I also want to surprise players in more subtle ways, through world building, random events, and unexpected moments that make each run feel unique. I want players to be engaged at every level of the game. I want someone to unlock a hidden character that starts with a unique artifact that you can't find anywhere else. But more than anything, I want Alchemortis to be the kind of game that keeps you up until 4 in the morning. The kind of game where you say, just one more run, or that build was almost perfect, I need to try again. I want your mind racing with all the different ways you could break the game. And with your help and feedback, that's exactly what we can achieve. Again, Alchemortis is available for playtesting now for a week, so head over to the Steam page to get access immediately. Wishlisting the game also helps a lot, and I'd love to hear your feedback in the Discord server. All of those links are in the pinned comment and in the description. Thank you all for your support, and I can't wait to see how you break Alchemortis next. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to support my work, please consider wishlisting Alchemortis on Steam, subscribing to my Patreon, joining the Discord server, or purchasing one of my courses. You can also sign up for my email list at firebelly.com. The links for everything are in the description below.